Right, folks, this is a new podcast from the Two Mics, and I'm going to give you old Energy Boy, MG, to introduce it.
Yeah, we've edited out all the nonsense from Mike Porky Perry, so it might be a bit shorter than usual.
Ha, 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 ha. Look at the lights! I did a bit of research to find out, the history of traffic wardens and have they always been so demonic and all that. Look at the light! Look at the light! Look at the light!
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics, and it is that time of the morning, at the beginning of the week, so it's time to say a very good morning, a very happy St. Patrick's Day to Mr. Mike Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Good morning, Mike. Why are you wishing me a happy St. Patrick's Day?
Well, because it's St. Patrick's Day.
But I'm not Irish.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No,
you
of course it matters.
St. Patrick's Day,
Excuse me. Would I wish you, a happy... I've forgotten the name of the day now in November in America.
What, Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, why not?
Why
wouldn't you?
Well,
it's just a greeting. I mean, why would you take exception to saying a happy St. Patrick's Day?
Okay, why didn't you, a few weeks ago, I think it was a week last Sunday, why didn't you ring me up on the Sunday and wish me a happy St. David's Day? Because it was Welsh St. David's Day.
Well, probably because I was busy, I would imagine.
No, you're taking
If it was St. David's Day today, I would say happy St. David's Day.
No, you're taken in by this ridiculous trend that we've all got to celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
We don't have to.
Because, Irish people drink lots of Guinness and they wear silly green hats.
Yeah.
Sorry, some of them wear some quite nice green hats.
Yeah, and also some people celebrate it who are not Irish at all.
And people go around dancing in the streets because they think it's good because, it's St. Patrick's Day. They haven't got a clue why they're doing it.
Well,
people all over America, including Boston most particularly and New York, have these massive parades.
Yeah, they put green liquid into the water.
Green liquid in the water. Yeah. They all claim to be Irish. They're not Irish.
No.
I remember having a confrontation with a bloke once in a pub in New York. Yeah,
it doesn't surprise me.
Who said to me,
have many confrontations.
Who said to me, "You goddamn Brits, give Ireland back to the Irish." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "You heard me. Give Ireland back to the Irish." I said, "What do you mean, give Ireland back to the Irish? We don't own Ireland. Ireland own Ireland. Right. We own the 6 counties of the 10 counties of the province of Ulster, you fool. Do you know what you're talking about?
Right.
Don't you call me a fool." I said, "When were you last in Ireland?" He said,
I'm very sorry.
I've never been to Ireland. I've never been to Ireland.
All I can say...
I said, well, stop talking rubbish.
All I can say is I'm very sorry I wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. I now withdraw it. I hope you don't have a very nice St. Patrick's Day.
Okay. Well, no. I'll have an ordinary day. That's fine and all that. But I can promise you I will not be down the local pretend Irish pub, in the Surrey Stockbroker Belt.
So you won't be going to the pub today,
with sort of K-Fi highlight written over the door or something.
That sounds like Maori.
It's a similar sort of language, It's sort of like welcome to the boozer or something.
Yeah.
And a picture. Oh no, they've got a real black old bike outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pinned up against the wall with a sign on saying, Paddy McDonald's bread delivery or something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just a load of rubbish, isn't it? It's all theatre and fantasy.
But they do very well. Anyway, I'm terribly sorry I wished you a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'll never do such a thing again.
Well, I hope on April the 23rd you wish me a happy St. George's Day.
I will do if we're working,
I'll be hosting, a gentleman's lunch in the city. And,
will you?
Okay. And doing all this kind of stuff,
Well, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah,
very glad you're doing it.
I want you to be happy for me.
I also won't be going to any Irish pubs and doing any of that.
Yeah, good. So what? Why are you jumping on this old St. Patrick's Day bandwagon? I just don't get it.
I just thought it was a nice thing to do. Now, we're going to be talking about ducks coming up because you've been getting a lot of flack on Twitter because there's been lots of people.
Flack.
There's been,
I've been getting flack at all.
Yes, you have. From people, millions of people have been posting things saying, read this, Porky, it says that you shouldn't feed bread to ducks. So we're going to talk to a duck expert.
Some alleged expert says, you shouldn't feed bread to ducks. Another so-called, it's the politically correct mob who've now decided to jump in the duck pond and get involved.
Well, we're going to speak to a woman in Winnipeg, so we're going to do that a little bit later on.
Good, I like that.
She will tell you, I'm sure, that is good.
There's nothing wrong with bread.
A couple of things I need to talk to you about, though, before we get to that.
Yeah, I agree. But I do wish that these duck people, instead of going on about bread, which ducks have been eating for 200 years, do you not remember in The Sound of Music? Feed the birds.
Yeah, they're birds,
tuppence
not ducks.
A bag.
Yeah.
Tuppence. But they've got the same alimentary
canal. Wasn't that Mary
canal.
Poppins you're talking about?
That was Mary Poppins, actually.
I don't think it was The Sound of Music.
No, it was Mary Poppins. And they have the same alimentary canal, the birds, those pigeons, as a duck does, right?
Also, it wasn't bread, apparently, Mary Poppins. It was grain they were getting fed.
No, it wasn't. No, feed the birds tuppence a bag.
Tuppence a bag, it was grain,
No, it wasn't. They were the cuttings off the edge of bread. They were what you call bread crusts. Yeah, that's what they were.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
we'll get stuck into that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Let's talk, first of all, obviously about Everton's win at the weekend.
Yeah,
you must have been very happy about that.
Of course you're very happy, yeah.
But what about Dick Advocaat going to Sunderland?
Well, actually, although I think that, it's too late in the day for Dick Advocaat because he managed Rangers and in the first season with Rangers he won the treble.
Very well at
he
Rangers,
treble,
he did.
yeah. But then he only ever won 2 more trophies with them. So he had an explosive start, and then. In Scotland in those days, either Rangers or Celtic won. It just happened to be Celtic's time in the what you call the loop of Celtic Rangers victories.
Yes.
But the reason I'm delighted he's in the news, even if he doesn't get the job, is because what I love about Dick Advocaat is he forms part of one of the greatest TV jingles of all time.
Which is what?
Night and morning, I drink Vornings Advocaat. Don't you remember that?
I do remember that.
That was called eggnog.
Can you still buy that stuff, Advocaat?
I don't know. Isn't it? My mum used to call it eggnog, and it's the only thing she used to drink at Christmas.
That's right.
In a snowball, I think, or something like that. But I don't know if she Advocaat that you get in she bottle is still available. But Dick Advocaat, maybe his family.
Well, funnily
his
enough,
family owns the Advocaat company that produced the drink.
Funnily enough, the voice that you're now doing, which sounds more like Steve McLaren, his name been mentioned in passing as well.
Yeah, it has actually.
Steve McLaren might be going there, and also Sam Allardyce. The back pages are saying might be going there.
I don't quite get that.
I don't understand that.
This campaign against Sam Allardyce, get him out at all costs, which an element of the fans at West Ham seem to have been on the case of since the start of the season. I don't get it, and I suppose Sam's given them a bit of currency now because West Ham have sort of levelled out, haven't they? Sort of gone a bit flat and all that kind of stuff. By the way, all these people who've been ringing me up and sending me texts and saying, delighted for Everton now, it's like we've been saved from relegation. Well, in the first place, we weren't going to get relegated anyway.
Right. I never believed that.
Some chap I was tweeting with over the
I
weekend.
saw this guy who wanted to have a bet with you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
100 to 1.
Yeah, 1,000 to 1.
Was it 1,000 to 1?
No, what was it? It was 100,000 to 1,000.
You said you would give him 100,000 if it went down, and he would have to give you 1,000 if they stayed up.
Yeah. Well, we kind of called the bet off because when Everton got the 3 points, it's unlikely they'll go down, and I wouldn't take the money off him anyway.
No.
It was just to try and prove that I have faith in Everton. But as the point of the story is that everybody said, delighted Everton. Well, actually, if you look at it statistically, if Everton are a relegation threat, there's still plenty of room for them to be relegated, to be honest. 31 points is nowhere near. Safety these days is about 36, maybe 37, something like that.
Maybe 40 even.
Well, it's all used to be 40, but it's a lot less than that now. Yeah. I think the year that West Ham got relegated, when Joe Cole was their captain at 20 years of age, I think they got something like 44 points, and they still got relegated. Yeah, I think that was the highest number of points ever for a team who got relegated from the Premier League. But what I'm saying is, I've looked at Everton's fixture now at the end of the season, and they haven't got an easy game. They have not got an easy game. We're playing teams like Southampton, Manchester United. The one home game, you could say, is a bank of 3 points is Burnley, but actually...
Well, that's not a banker either.
No, Burnley are trying terrifically hard to save themselves
Burnley
from relegation.
have taken 4 points off Manchester City.
Yes,
in
that's
2
right.
games, which is not bad,
that's right.
is it?
That's
but,
right.
but they're still in the relegation mire, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you'd have to say, Leicester, QPR, I don't think there's much hope for either of those. Burnley, Sunderland, Hull City... Maybe Aston Villa are probably safe now as well because.
But you mentioned QPR. Now I'm going to QPR next Sunday.
Yes,
it's that game to which you were invited.
To which I was invited,
and to which you cruelly
which I wasn't able to take up.
Turned down the invitation.
Well, no, because you invited me before I was able to check whether I could
go. A seat was put aside for you.
Yeah,
there's a place being laid at the table in the executive suite. For a bit of lunch.
Well, you've embarrassed me, I'm afraid.
Well, I don't mean to embarrass you, but when these opportunities come, and I do think you have a responsibility to talk sport to fulfil. Some of these engagements.
Unfortunately, I've got babysitting duties on Sunday.
Babysitting. Yeah. How did your babysitting duties go yesterday?
Yesterday?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that wasn't really babysitting because nobody was out. Mother's Day was very nice. Very nice day.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, quite a long day, I would say.
And temperate in terms of the consumption?
No, there was quite a lot of drink taken. In fact, rather unfortunately, I bought my, I don't know if I should say future son-in-law, but my daughter's boyfriend, a bottle of whiskey for a celebration of his birthday.
Yes.
And we drank it.
Right,
which I wasn't expecting to do,
Oh, dear.
And whiskey is not something I drink very often, to be honest. So I'm still feeling slightly delicate.
Yes, I should imagine you are. It was also my sister's birthday on the same day, exactly the same day. And I bought her a £25 plant. It's great.
Plant?
Yeah.
£25 plant?
Yes, I did, yeah.
What sort of plant?
It's in a bowl. In like a wicker basket. No, in a wicker sort of bowl.
What was it? What kind of plant is it?
I don't know
what it's called?
I don't know. She asked me, but there was...
Did it not have a little label on it saying what it was?
Well, it was a load of things. Right. Some of it was, believe it or not, basil was growing in the top of it.
So it was like a box of herbs you bought her?
No, there was a bulb of something, some sort of flower and this sort of thing, No, look, she liked it.
Well, should you not have had a look at what it was? You can't put basil in with daffodils. You must have bought her a bowl of herbs.
No,
which is not a bad thing to buy.
No, I didn't. No, she liked it anyway. She thought it was great. I saw it outside a flower shop and I thought that'll do. But it was very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And to get it down there, it was a bit of a struggle. But anyway, there we go. And
well, that's a very nice present.
Yeah, exactly. And for my mother, it was the usual flowers and a huge box of milk tray, most of which I ate as the day wore on.
Course.
Whilst watching the football. And I have to have this with my mum, I have this, what I call the washing machine effect. I've got the nodding, so when Mum's speaking to me and I'm saying yes. And
so
then
you're not actually listening to her.
And then I'm watching the football and I'm shaking my head because I'm thinking, that wasn't very good, was it? So instead of just nodding and shaking, I just now circulate my head like this.
That's probably quite a good exercise for your neck, actually.
It is good exercise for your neck, and everybody thinks that you're paying attention, you know what I mean? In fact, you're not paying attention at all. Right. It's going in one ear and out the other.
Well, I hope she doesn't hear this then, because then the secret will be out.
No. My mother knows all about my ability to absorb information from many different angles at the same time.
Right. Excellent.
Done it all my life.
We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. We've got winners and losers coming up. We've got a duck debate coming up as well. You can tweet us at the two Mikes. This is TalkSport.
TalkSport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
TalkSport.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. We've got loads to do. We've got a duck debate coming up in a little while. We'll find out what the best thing is to feed them, of course. Do you recognise that theme tune by any chance from a film?
No, I don't.
You might not have seen it. It's Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, OK, yeah, I like that. It was a great film.
Jake LaMotta.
Yeah. Robert De Niro.
That's right.
Yeah,
Put
fantastic.
on loads and loads of weight for the role.
He did for the second half of the film.
second half of it, yeah.
In the first half of the film, he was the champion.
So you've seen it,
brilliant. Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, OK, good.
What do you mean I've seen it?
Well, sometimes there's a lot of movies that you haven't seen.
No, there's not. I've seen almost all great movies in the history of the cinema during my lifetime.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a few bum ones that I haven't seen.
Have we ever done a movie quiz? Because we didn't think of a subject for a quiz this week.
I think we've done a movie quiz.
I think we've done one in the live show. I'm not sure if we've ever done one on the show.
Oh, we could do a movie quiz then. I don't mind that. I'll go for that.
Quiz?
Yeah, movie quiz. Fine.
Okay.
Fine. That will suit indeed.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say the history of Ireland because it's St Patrick's Day, but that's a bit complicated.
Well, also it won't be St Patrick's Day by Thursday.
No, and it's a bit colourless as well. Not colourless, but
colourless.
I mean. No, I don't mean colourless. I mean, it's a bit deep for our listeners because I am an expert on the history of Ireland.
Are you?
Potato famine, all that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe we should have a quiz on the history of Ireland. We'll do movies anytime.
No, we'll do the movies. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Right. We'll do the history of Ireland. Anyway, the reason we're playing it is, of course, because of Wayne Rooney's boxing outing. One of the papers this morning has got Rooney footy punch up for 50,000. They want to try and reenact it and do it for charity or something.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think Wayne Rooney would rather just write out a cheque for $50,000 and send it to charity.
Probably,
because the idea, I mean, look, we've both been tabloid journalists for most of our lives, but to put together a proposition that they actually have a proper boxing match, two of professional athletes, one of whom is England's best footballer, getting into a ring and having his mate knock his brains around is ludicrous.
Yeah.
So it won't work. I mean, it's a good idea to try and stimulate public interest in it, but it won't work. But you actually seen the video, haven't you? I mean, I am amazed. Do you know what occurred to me the moment I saw Rooney go down? Thought, blimey, that was so close to becoming a Michael Schumacher instant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His head could have smacked onto the marble floor of his kitchen, and he could have cracked his head open. Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing.
Well, he went absolutely straight down. I mean, the thing that I find amazing as well is where the video actually came from. Who shot it? And how did it make its way into the public domain?
I think that boy's in trouble. It was clearly a very close mate because not many people get to spend a Sunday morning in Wayne Rooney's kitchen, do they?
Right.
Unless you're. I didn't even know he's a big mate of Bardsley's anyway. Yeah. But I mean, that's these relationships are formed when they're sort of 14. You know what I mean? And they're going to youth football and all that kind of stuff, and they stay with them for long careers. But I thought it was amazing. I was amazed that.
And you, of course, have got a bit of a history of boxing. You being the Butlins boxing champion, right?
Butlins boxing champion, Farley, 1961.
Yeah,
and I've shown you the cup.
I've
anyway,
seen the cup. And it's not a very impressive cup, but nevertheless, you've got a cup.
Yeah, I've got the cup. Yeah, but what I thought was, You know, when you go down like that, it's because you get hit on the point of the jaw where two nerves coming down from the side of your head meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's how you spark somebody out.
Yeah.
That's what I've always remembered. If I get into a punch-up, it hits somebody right on the point of their jaw.
Really?
And that will knock them out.
Have you been in a lot of punch-ups?
Sorry?
Have you been in a lot of punch-ups?
No. I'm clever enough to talk my way out of trouble in that sort of respect,
right.
you know?
Okay.
I read a story today about some guy who can't even yawn without dislocating his own jaw.
Really?
You see that?
No, I didn't. No.
Every time he yawns, you go, ooh, and his jaw comes out, you know, which is a bit, you know...
That must be a bit tricky.
Bit of a nuisance, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He can't eat chewing gum or
So
anything.
how does he get it undislocated or whatever?
He has to get somebody to sort of knock it back in, but he's going to have an operation because his jawbone ends up round the back of his ear, and it's like a golf ball-sized bulge out of his ear.
So have you ever knocked anybody out then, stone cold like that, when you were in your boxing career?
No. I, normally speaking, would wear them down.
Yeah.
I mean, in my best ever fight, you know, it was 3 rounds, and I battered the bloke senseless. He was cowering in the corner at the end.
Was he?
And and
doesn't sound like much of a boxer.
That's right, yeah. And he was about 6'2" or 6'3". But it was just sheer force and willpower and that kind of stuff. But I do think the Rooney thing was quite amazing. He comes from a boxing family. And I see his brother, by the way, scored for Chester on Saturday.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Chester were 2-0 down at home and drew 2-2, and his brother scored. So the Rooney family spreading their wings across the sporting world. Football, boxing, football in the conference, you name it, they're there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's I mean, I can't imagine Lou Van Gaal would be too happy with him. I
wouldn't have thought so.
By doing all that.
Wouldn't have thought so. Talking about Manchester United heroes, did you read the stuff from Callum Best, the son of George Best? Now,
amazing stuff.
3-part series so far. It was started on Saturday, and then it was yesterday and today, Tuesday. The stuff on Saturday was excoriating, I have to say.
It was.
It was unbelievable. I mean, just to let our listeners know how powerful it was, this is Callum Best talking about a time he came over from America where he lived with his mother, Angie Best. His father picked him up, took him to Old Trafford. And then that night they were in a hotel having dinner with some of George Best's ex-mates and friends, ex-players. And the boy, who was then like 7 or 8, went out with his football that he'd acquired at Manchester United that day, and it was signed by, amongst others, David Beckham and the Neville brothers.
Right.
When he came back in, his father and all the adult men had disappeared. And just disappeared. He didn't have a key to the room or anything.
Yeah,
he had to ring his mother, had to get another room. The manager of the hotel had to look after him, fixed him up some food and all that. Father came back the next day, and it was revealed later his father had gone up with a hooker he'd picked up in the hotel. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely incredible stuff. But you know, it's interesting because over the course of the weekend there's been a lot of reaction to it. And on some of the social media stuff.
Yeah, you were telling me that,
Yeah, there's some of the football writers who've spoken to Callum Best in the past and who knew George when he was a player.
Yes.
And who say that, you know, until this book came out, Callum was always very kind of careful to be very respectful to his dad and always said nice things about him and always talked about how much he loved him, what a great relationship he had with him, and obviously, you know, he knew that he had a problem with drink, etc. But this is a complete reversal of all of that stuff.
Well, I think
some people are saying, well, is he doing this finally now because he needs the money?
Oh, I would think so, yeah.
Or is he now, is he making some of this stuff up? Did it really happen?
Oh, no, he's not making it up. He couldn't make up the stuff. I think it's a very important historical document. I think it has to be written. I don't blame Callum at all. He will make a lot of money for it. It'll be a best-selling book, I would imagine, because George Best is still a character who fascinates millions and millions of people, not just football fans, women as well, and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's an horrendous book about a man whose decline was so shocking.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you can talk till the end of the earth and say George Best was an alcoholic. He couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
Not all alcoholics behave like he did.
No.
I mean, in one terrible scene, he comes back from the pub after being there all day, again, when Callum was visiting from America, and all his dad ever did was take him to the pub every day.
Right.
So Callum goes home early to find George Best's new wife, Alex, at home. Best comes in, absolutely out of his brain on drink, accuses his 14-year-old son of having slept with his wife, his new young wife. I mean, horrendous stuff.
And I think if you've known people, I mean, I don't think many of us have known, you know, drunks like George Best.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the stuff that they do and then excuse in the name of drink and in the name of their addiction is horrendous.
I totally agree.
And I mean, as a father, and just to be serious for a minute, I mean, the idea of leaving your 7-year-old child anywhere and just disappearing off and not even caring what happens to them is extraordinary.
It is unbelievable. Now, yesterday, right, during the course of Mother's Day, I was in a pub called The Well, which is in a place called Lower Kingswood in Surrey.
Yeah.
And George Best's house was just over the ridge beyond the back garden of the pub.
Right.
But his pub was in the next village, called Walton-on-the-Hill. It was called Checkers. Right. And he used to go there. And Alex, his wife, because they lived in that house together, used to come walking over the hill, down the footpath into the back garden of the pub and come and join us sometimes. Right. But she would never go into the same pub as George Best. For reasons that, you can probably understand.
So she would walk over the hill with him, but then leave him in the pub?
No. Some mate would always come and pick him up and take him to this other pub, the Checkers. Right. Everybody wanted to drink with George Best, right? So she would when she came in, she'd say, no, I'm not going anywhere near his pub. He can go with his mates. I just want a quiet lunch and with my friend, she'd come with a girlfriend or something like that. But when you'd see George Best in the other place, Checkers, he never bought a drink. He didn't have to. People used to come in and queue up to buy him drinks. Yeah. Even when he said he only wanted to drink water, it didn't matter. Glasses of wine appeared on his table and all sorts of things.
And then they'd want to engage in conversation and get him to tell them stories. Right?
Have my picture taken with you and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
When you go to the pub,
it is, yes. I have to keep a low profile as well. I usually hide behind a newspaper or something. But, no, you're absolutely right. And on one occasion, when he's right near the end of, when he started drinking again after his new liver and all that, I remember sitting out the front of the Checkers at a table. It was a nice summer's day. Yeah. And a car turned up. It was a taxi. Right. And I was a bit puzzled because the taxi had a driver who seemed to be talking to somebody in the days before sort of the wide-scale use of hands-off phones. Right. But there didn't seem to be anybody else in the car. And then the passenger door opened and a body rolled out. It must have been sitting in the well of the seat, you know what I mean?
Right, on the floor.
On the floor, a body rolled out onto the pavement. Right. And then the taxi driver leaned over and grabbed the door and shut it because the person had, rolled into the gutter, so to speak, below the level of the car, and drove off. And the person in the gutter was George Best. He'd come back to the pub after spending all night somewhere drinking, going home, having a row with Alex and saying, I'm not putting up with this, and going out again. Calling a taxi or somebody called a taxi for him and arriving. So he's in a terrible state towards the end of his life. So I do think the Callum Best thing is a very valuable historical document. I really do.
Well, it is a piece today in the Daily Mail. It says, despite the bad times, I feel truly sorry for him. So so perhaps he does have some sympathy at some point anyway. But
maybe.
Yeah, a terrible story.
Maybe.
He's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. We've got loads and loads to do. Lots and lots of tweets and texts coming in. We'll get to some of those. Ian says this, Rooney does put his hands out to break his fall and the video stops quickly. I'm not sure he was knocked out. Well, that's not what I saw.
No, I saw him sparked out.
No, that's what I think. Yeah, because he did that funny celebration at the game yesterday.
He did, yeah.
Of course. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes. We've got winners and losers coming up. We're going to talk about ducks and all sorts of other animals very shortly. For extra time, we are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out, of course, a little bit later
What's that called? The Macho Duck.
Macho Duck.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You like it?
Well, I like.
It's awful.
I like songs about ducks. I mean, we've got to look after our ducks.
There's not many songs about ducks, really, are there? I can't think of too many songs about ducks.
I thought I saw a poshy cat. No, that's not a duck, is it?
That's not a duck, no.
What was the one about, I saw him there?
That's about a mouse.
That's about a mouse, that's right. Yeah,
like I said, there's not a lot of songs about ducks. I'll tell you what,
is that one about a black duck? No?
A black duck?
A black duck, yeah.
I don't think so.
Black Swan, maybe. Yeah.
Black Swan, that was a movie, yeah. I found this tweet that was sent to me by Glenn over the course of the weekend.
Right.
And he said, you must bring this up on the show on Monday with Mr. Parry.
Yes.
And it's actually an extract, for want of a better word, from one of your own books.
Oh, yes.
About Mr. Brazil.
Oh, yes.
And here's what it says. Porky was a mug for a pretty face. I'd seen him give away literally thousands of pounds over the years to women with hard luck stories.
Yes.
On one occasion in a pub in Cardiff, he signed a cheque for £700 to a woman he had never met before, who told him she needed it for her mother's kidney transplant, like you can buy a new kidney off the shelf.
Yeah, I remember that,
Is that true?
Yeah, I remember that,
You gave some stranger £700?
I did, yeah.
Why?
She'd started a charity to raise money for her mother's kidney...
What was she doing in the pub?
I don't know, really. I'm not sure. And I don't think...
Was she an attractive woman?
Well, I'm not sure, really. You can't always tell in a pub in Wales when you've had a few, if you know what I mean, But no...
It's dark.
Sorry, yeah, dark. But I think it was more... She was collecting for a dialysis machine for her mother who had a kidney problem. Yeah. I mean, Mr. Brazil's right. You can't sort of go around buying kidneys off a shelf and saying, look, Doc, I've got a kidney, I've just paid for it, £700, could you please transplant this into my mother? It doesn't work like that.
Right. But you wrote a cheque, presumably she cashed the cheque, or you would have known that.
I suppose so, yeah.
But did you, he says he's seen over the course of years, I presume you wrote this book, right?
Yes, I did, yes.
You giving women thousands of pounds?
Well, I don't...
It's an extraordinary thing to do.
No, I don't give women thousands of pounds. He's mad in that alley.
Well, you wrote the book, though.
Yeah, well, I did, yeah. But
you wrote that paragraph.
Yes, but that's what he said, so I didn't, you didn't
dispute it?
Well, I didn't contradict it because it's what he was saying. I couldn't say, no, I didn't. He says, I've seen you do it, so I wrote it.
Right.
But, he looks at me in awe and astonishment when a guy comes up to me and says, hello, I'm a Hindu priest and I'm running a Hindu temple in... somewhere in Scotland, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And, fine. So I gave him 50 quid. Problem was, it was the 4-day golf tournament. He came back every morning for another 50 quid. So I sort of felt obligated to give it to him.
Right.
Talking about attractive people and women in Wales and all that kind of stuff, by the way, I saw the second edition of Poldark on Sunday night.
Oh, right.
And I mean,
people have been on Twitter again saying about that because you recommended it on Porky Vision, they watched it. And they thought it was the most dull, awful thing they'd ever seen.
No. I mean, women are now swooning like mad because he went naked swimming, like skinny dipping, we'd call it these days, in the sea. And the woman he's rescued from a life of drudgery.
Shouldn't you be telling us all this on Porky Vision?
Well, I will. But
hey, by the way, I meant to mention another show. I don't know whether you've seen this. Have you seen Liz Hurley is going to be in a show in America about the royal family, but it's not our royal family. It's a new sitcom which they're making out is what the royal family might be like if it was a sitcom, and she's playing the Queen. And
Joan Collins is playing the Queen Mother.
Yeah.
That's amazing, I mean...
Is that going to make an appearance in Porky Vision?
No, because it'll be so bad, I would imagine. Whenever the Americans do anything about the royals, I mean, you've seen some of those ridiculous Diana movies, Diana, the last 10 days and all this kind of stuff. They are garbage.
They are rubbish.
They are utter garbage, and I can't watch them.
And also that one that came out with, was it Amy, what was the name of the woman who was in it?
Who?
Naomi Watts, I think, played Diana, which the cinema release that came out last year.
Cinema release last year, don't remember that.
Which
bombed, yeah. Well, they all bombed. It was
called Diana.
They all bombed because Diana's always portrayed as this simpering little woman, you know, who doesn't know what she's doing. But Diana was a remarkably interesting woman.
Yeah.
Do you remember the number of boyfriends she had towards the end of her life? And I mean, not being disrespectful here, and I don't want to upset her sons and all that, but she clearly, was in such a forlorn marriage. She went and sought friendship wherever she could, and it was quite remarkable, really. None of us knew what was going on in those days.
No, she didn't run into you, really.
Sorry?
That she was still married, she would have been on your radar.
I never met Diana, Princess of Wales.
Didn't you?
No, our great friend Stuart Higgins, who used to be the editor of The Sun, right? He met her on a number of occasions and was completely bowled over by her, as are most people.
Were. I met her once, but very early on, just after she got married. And the first trip to America to the White House was her and Charles. I think it was about 1985.
That wasn't the Travolta one, was it?
It was.
Dancing with Travolta.
Yeah, that was the one,
yeah.
But she was quite sort of... not innocent, but she wasn't kind of worldly wise about the press in those days.
I totally agree.
And it was literally one of those. It was at that place, actually, where you used to hang out, the Ambassador's Residence.
The Ambassador's Residence, that's right, yeah.
Where you used to go and give away the secrets of all the other journalists.
Built by...
Don't know.
The big chimneys and all that. Lucians. Lucians built it. Lucians built the Ambassador's Residence in Washington.
It was there, but it was one of these receiving lines. We just went and said hello, shook hands.
Well, she got married, and I was a reporter for the Express in Manchester. We had to draft about 6 people down just to cover all the bases in London.
Yeah.
So I actually covered her wedding, and I got a great story from, even though I saw it myself, some chap turned up with 1,000 telescopes.
Oh, yeah.
Sold them all for £5.
Wow.
And it only cost him like £250 to make them out of cardboard and mirrors.
Yeah.
So he made £5,000 on the day.
That's quite enterprising.
And these cardboard telescopes meant you could stand at the back of the crowd and see everything go by, you know what I mean? It was
like the things they have at golf courses.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
It's a periscope you're talking about, isn't it?
What did I say?
You said a telescope.
Periscope. I meant periscope, that's right, yeah. So then what happened was I moved down to London soon afterwards, and she went on her first official tour, and I went back to the north because it was in North Wales, because it was the Prince of Wales marrying Diana, Princess of Wales. And then I saw her first walkabout in somewhere like Colwyn Bay or Rhyl or something like that.
Right.
And that was the first indication of how annoyed Prince Charles got about the amount of attention his wife was getting, and he wasn't.
Right.
Everywhere we went, she went to about 4 or 5 receptions on the same day.
Right.
People rushed forward to Diana.
Just pushed her out of the way.
Charles was sort of trampled underfoot, as they were all... And you could see then, this mysterious look on his face. What's going on here? I'm the next king. I'm the Prince of Wales. Why aren't they showing me any respect?
And also, the great thing in America, because it's like in America where the journalists there don't have the same kind of what
reverence.
You might call reverence, and they would be always shouting out to them, Hey, Chuck! What's it like being married to Diana? He used to hate it because he never wanted to respond to anything,
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, but that's another story.
That is another story. Now, I've got a few tweets to read out to you.
Okay.
We're going to be talking to this duck expert very shortly.
Right.
Paula Grief, her name is.
Grief?
Garif.
Garif?
Yeah.
Must be a put-on name.
Why?
G-I-R-E-E-F. They're just called Garif, are they?
Well, she is.
A crazy name.
Paula Garif. Here's one from Woodenhead who says, Rooney probably pretended he was knocked out because Barnsley suggested afterwards they read Porky's book about him, which is a bit harsh, isn't it?
Good idea, yeah.
Norman says, Callum Best at the age of 7 would have been 1988. Beckham would have been about 13, so why did he get them to sign a ball?
Well, actually, funny enough, it was supposed to be 1992, right?
Yeah.
And when I read this, I questioned that. I thought, hang on, 1992, a ball signed by Beckham and the Neville brothers.
Yeah.
Because they didn't actually burst on the scene, I didn't think. It was about 94 or 95, something like that.
It was the class of 92, that was what they were known as, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they were the class of 92 in the youth team when they were 16 and all that.
Yeah.
So whatever they were doing, they must have done at very early stages of their career.
But maybe that suggests that Callum's memory is not perhaps what it should be.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe that suggests that he is getting up to mischief. Thomas says, when my boys and I go out feeding the ducks, we buy a box of Nestle Cheerios. The ducks love them.
Cheerios,
which are like those little round, a bit like...
I know, I know.
Quite sweet.
Yeah. But look, I'll talk to the duck expert in a minute. This is all a fallacy. It's all madness. It's all, crazy. There are certain types of bread you don't feed ducks, but mostly speaking, it's okay, which the expert, I'm sure, will confirm when we speak to him, because this has all come from a latest report. Her name's Paula. Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
not a he.
She. It's all come from a report, which I believe was in The Guardian yesterday. I don't read The Guardian a lot because I can't read every paper every day. But it basically... I've got all these panic messages, stop feeding the ducks bread and all that. When I actually found it and read it, it said, don't overfeed the ducks with bread. It didn't say don't feed them with bread. It said don't overfeed them. It fills them up, bloats them. They can't. There's no room for more nutritious food. So they're not saying don't feed the ducks bread and it's bad for them and all that. These people just don't know what they're reading.
Well, let's see what Paula has to say.
Yes, let's see.
Paula Garif. Coming up next, she's the resident naturalist at Ducks Unlimited in Winnipeg in Canada. It's all duck songs.
Yes.
John's managed to find another one.
Yes,
this is Disco Duck.
Disco Duck.
But there's not many songs about ducks, it has to be said.
Wow, yeah.
Maybe some people could suggest a few more. A couple of us have suggested, why don't you get Porky to sing Ugly Duckling? But I don't think it's a very good idea at all.
There once was an ugly duckling.
No, that's not what I meant.
Who was that? That was Danny Kaye.
Was it Danny Kaye? Yeah, it probably was. Anyway, let's talk to somebody who knows an awful lot more about ducks than either of us put together. It is Paula Garif, and she's over in Winnipeg in Canada, a place called Ducks Unlimited. Paula, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. I suppose it's evening here.
Yes, indeed it is. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. My broadcasting colleague, Mr. Parry, is a great lover of ducks. On any given morning, he can be found at a duck pond somewhere in Surrey feeding ducks bread. And there's been a big report coming out here that says, basically, that you shouldn't feed them bread because it kills them and it also pollutes the water.
Well, I mean, bread is not one of those natural foods for ducks. It's not something that they regularly eat, and it's not necessarily the best thing for them to eat. Imagine if you were a human and all you ate was bread and it fills you up. Eventually you would become malnourished. The same thing happens with ducks.
Especially soggy bread, I would guess, right?
Well, I think it's the sogginess bread that gets away with it. The thing is, Paula, in this country, and I'm sure in America as well, we've been to Central Park in New York and seen the same thing happen. People naturally feed ducks with bread. It's been going on for 200 or 300 years. Ducks don't seem to have been falling off their perches because they're bloated with bread. Hasn't it become
sit on perches?
Yeah, I know. Hasn't it become an acceptable way of of feeding the ducks with little children and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think if you're going to feed ducks, it's best to feed them something that is good for them. So here in Canada, we like to encourage them to feed them cracked corn or barley or even alfalfa pellets that you feed rabbits, those kind of things, because that's more natural and there's more nutrition in it. So I always encourage people, if you want to feed the ducks, go ahead, but feed them something good for them.
Well, I tell you what I did, honestly, when I first started getting, sort of comments on Twitter and all that sort of thing about don't feed the ducks bread, I honestly made an effort. I went along there, I took 2 bags of frozen peas, I took a few tins of corn, I took some salad and chopped up tomatoes and carrots, and I threw it all in the pond. Yeah, salad. Threw it all in the pond, and I swear to you, Paula, the ducks just weren't interested. They just simply were not interested. And yet, when I went back and took a loaf of bread and started throwing the bread in, they were all clambering around, like it was their favourite food.
Well, I mean, we all like things that aren't good for us. Same thing with ducks. And I think if they only got good food for them, they would end up liking that. Because I know here when we go feeding, they'll eat the bread, but, you feed them corn, and eventually they're going to eat that too.
What about this suggestion that the bread is somehow damaging the water supply and the water, the environment for the water? They talk about it creates algae, it creates kind of pollution for the water. Is that true?
Well, not really. I mean, it gets soggy and it will look dirty in the water, but eventually it breaks down and will carry on, and it won't cause too much algae growth because there's not a lot of food in it. I mean, it's just like it makes dirty water, essentially.
Sure. Paul, there's one thing I do know about bread, because I'm very careful about it. If you feed ducks mouldy bread, it is very dangerous for them if you feed them stale bread. But actually, that is the same for human beings. Now, I have a congenital heart disease.
We shouldn't eat mouldy bread?
No, you shouldn't eat mouldy bread.
Really?
Mouldy bread can damage your heart. And if you eat bread that's got green spots on it, green spores or something like that, you will damage your heart. It's very dangerous. Same thing applies to ducks. So all I'm saying is that there is a good reason for warning people about feeding bread to ducks. If they think, it's a stale loaf, I'll just feed it to the ducks. But I have never come across a situation where fresh bread, in moderation, because if I take one loaf down to the pond where there's 100 ducks, they don't get much bread each, do they? It's more of a ritual than an actual feeding fest. I can't see the harm in it.
Well, I suppose if only you did it, that would probably be acceptable. But let's say you do it, and then I go down to the pond and do it, and then your friend goes down to the pond and does it.
Oh, he wouldn't. He's miserable.
No, he hasn't got any friends.
No, my friend's a miserable cur. He doesn't. He mistreats his dog.
Yeah.
Also,
the thing about Mike Parry, Paula, in his world, he's the only person that ever does anything. So he probably thinks he's the only person giving the bread to the ducks, right?
Yes, and so it's not just one person, and because everybody is doing it, and they may only be doing a couple of slices or half a loaf, and that's fine just for that one person, but when you add up all the people that are feeding ducks bread, it becomes their favorite food, and it's just like if we only ate popcorn, what would happen to us, right? Same idea.
Okay, Paula, talking to you where you are, by the way, the duck ponds I go to in the home counties in England here, we get the arrival of all these geese about sometime around this time of the year.
Canada geese.
Yeah, they're Canada geese, but they seem to come from Siberia. Does that make sense?
Yes, Canada geese are found worldwide. We just happen to have the name.
Oh, I see.
So we were the first ones to name them, but they're now found all the way around the world.
They're a terrible nuisance, actually. I mean, it's not something you'd want to put your name to, is it, Canada geese?
Well, they have a right to be here just as much as we do, and when you provide the perfect habitat, then you have to expect them to be there. So
used to make a terrible mess of my golf course.
Well,
golf courses are perfect.
Yeah, they can make a terrible mess near rivers and ponds and things like that. But they don't actually fly here from Canada, then?
No, they don't.
No, okay. That'd be quite a long journey, actually.
It would be.
Yeah.
So where do they fly here from?
From Siberia.
You sure?
Yeah, Canada geese come from...
Why don't we ask Paula?
Well, Paula said they're all around the world. Yeah, Didn't you hear her? She said that three times.
I know that, but if they're all around the world, why are they flying here?
Well, I don't know. Why do they fly here, Paula? Is it warmer?
It's warmer, and there's more food to raise young. And bread, or golf course grass, or whatever. So... so it's better habitat. And if you're raising young, you need more food.
Yes,
okay. Well, Paula, thank you very much indeed for that education. You've reinforced all my beliefs in duck feeding, and I'm very grateful to you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Paula Grief there from Winnipeg. So
she says there's nothing wrong with me going down and feeding the ducks.
That's not what she said.
No, she did, as long as nobody else goes down, so everybody else should stay away and let me get on with it.
And you should just feed all the ducks in Britain.
Yeah, because I'm responsible. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
I can afford good bread.
Maybe
I don't take the mouldy bread. I don't take them stale bread.
Well, I don't know why you were advising everybody not to eat mouldy bread. I mean, nobody eats mouldy bread.
People do.
Why?
People.
Why would you eat bread that's got mould on it?
Because a lot of people don't know it's mouldy. What happens is, whenever I take a slice of bread out of a packet of bread, or whatever,
a plastic
bag,
so
that's
you're
right.
talking about plastic bread. It's not even proper bread.
I examine it forensically.
Why don't you buy bread at the bakery?
Eh?
Why don't you buy fresh bread at the bakery?
Well, because it goes stale after a day. I find that when you've got bread wrapped up in a plastic thing, it stays fresher for longer.
Yeah.
But the point is, every time I take a piece of bread out, I'm going to make a sandwich in it or put it in the toaster or something, I examine it forensically.
Have you got a new toaster, by the way? I thought you blew your toaster
No,
up.
I've got a new toaster.
Oh, have you?
I already had one. I didn't realise I had a spare one in the wardrobe.
Spare toaster?
Spare toaster.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah. I've got a spare kettle as well. Found a spare kettle, yeah. So if the kettle blows up, I'm going to be okay.
Is it cordless?
Cordless, yeah.
A cordless kettle?
Cordless spare kettle. Yeah, no, I'm very pleased.
Why would you have a spare kettle?
I don't know. I don't know where I got them from. And it was
why you've got... You know what I think you've got?
It was in the cupboard where I normally keep my trainers, so I don't know what it's doing in there. I thought it was actually a pair of trainers.
What's that disorder you get when you just buy stuff that you don't need?
Oh, I don't know. kleptomania
You're a
or something.
shopaholic.
Yeah,
You think that you're stealing it if you're...
well, that's right. Well, everyone steal things. But,
no, but you do buy a lot of stuff you don't need, don't you?
Well, everybody does. Everybody
I don't
does.
buy anything I don't need.
No, but loads of people do.
I can't remember the last time I bought anything I didn't need.
I had to get a wardrobe from IKEA.
Oh, yeah.
Especially just to house a load of jackets that I've bought over the years, which I've never worn.
Right.
And one of them, in fact...
Quite expensive, probably, some of them as well.
Yeah, they're quite expensive, yeah. And one of them...
Well, that's sports jackets, that sort of thing.
Well, some of them I bought it when we went and used to go and cover the golf and all that. I'd buy that year's sort of wind cheater, if you see what I mean,
Right,
the golf jacket, and it would have, Open Golf, Royal Lytham St Anne's or something like that.
You get one of those for nothing.
You were always offered them. You're always offered them, but you might want to go and get one that you actually liked rather than one that had been given to you. You didn't like. You give away to somebody else, And there was one there, and it was amazing. It was like a damson colour.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually for the Ryder Cup at the
Belfry.
The Belfry, that's right, in Birmingham. And
I got a shirt from there. I got a golf shirt from there. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I don't wear it anymore. It's a bit tight.
Yeah, well, it would be. Yeah, you put on some.
Well, it was it was the wrong size.
Yeah. And the point of my story is, I hung this up on a railing in a room where light came in through the window. You see what I mean? And this railing was like a clothes railing, for sort of things like tracksuits and that sort of thing.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Where was this, in your flat?
This was in the penthouse in Surrey. Yeah, it was the back room, so to speak. And then I sort of forgot about it for a few years. And then I went to get it. Thought, I've got to put all these things in a wardrobe. So I ordered this wardrobe from IKEA. And it's now a multicoloured coat because the sun has played on the front of it and turned it sort of pink.
Well, which room has it been hanging in?
In my back spare bedroom.
Oh, what? The one you lock?
No, I don't lock it. I don't lock anything.
Oh, it's the one in Portsmouth you lock.
No, I don't. I don't lock anything. And by the way, talking about Portsmouth.
Well, how long has it been hanging there, though?
What?
This coat.
Well, that's what I mean, about a few years.
Hanging there for years?
Yeah, hanging there for years, yeah. And the front has now gone completely pink, and the back is still a deep sort of damson colour.
How bizarre.
So it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a unique golfing jacket because it's two-toned.
Maybe you should give it to some of the down and outs.
Maybe I should, yeah, something like that.
What were you going to say about Portsmouth?
Well, what I was going to say is the most bizarre thing happened to me. Although I spent... like Mother's Day and all that in Surrey, I had to go down the coast to sort a few things out. Yeah. And so on Friday...
Did you see the copper?
No, I didn't see him, no. I haven't seen him, no.
You haven't seen him since that time
I haven't
Kevin knocked on the door?
I haven't,
Do you not find that a bit suspicious?
Not really. He might be working undercover. He's got to keep out of the way. But anyway, so I went straight from here when we'd finished Thursday morning, Friday morning, right, I get down there about 6 o'clock or something like that. Right. Then I had to go out for lunch and go meet somebody. Right. I go to this place, right, and I said, well, let's get there early, 12 o'clock or something, because I want to get it out of the way and all that, and get home and all that sort of thing. And so 12 o'clock I walked in, and it was the most bizarre sight, because this place opens at 11 o'clock.
Is it a pub or a restaurant?
It was a pub-restaurant. Right. It's a pub-restaurant. It's actually a carvery. I know you've got a thing against carveries. But
I haven't got anything against carvery.
It's a carvery place.
Right.
So I walk in, and there's, like, almost every table's occupied, but nobody has got a drink or any food.
Bizarre.
And so I walked to the bar, and I said, hello, I said... have I missed something here? He said, I'm very sorry, sir. He said, our computer system's gone down, and we can't operate the tills. And
they still can't give everybody a drink?
No, so hang on. So I said, well, so what? I said, look, give me a couple of pints here for me and my friend, and, put it on the slate, and we'll pay you. And he said, I can't, I'm sorry. Whatever we serve from behind the bar has to be processed through the tills.
That's ridiculous.
He said, and also, the computer has jammed the pumps, and they won't work. I said, how long have all these people been sitting here? He said, some of them since 11 o'clock. And I said,
for an hour?
Yeah. And I said, and when is this going to resolve itself? He said, we simply just don't know. He said, we've got another computer expert coming from, some regional base or something. Right. I said, and these people are going to sit here. I said, look, with the greatest respect, Matt, I'm going somewhere else. Yeah. I said, I can't think of anything worse than sitting in a pub that's got no food, no wine, no beer, and people are sitting there. It was unbelievable.
That's crazy.
I couldn't believe it.
That is bonkers.
I couldn't believe it. Absolutely astonishing.
Absolutely mad. It's the time, by the way.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. You worry too much about the time.
Yeah, no, I worry about it.
Time is just, it's just ethereal. Time's what happens when you're busy doing other things.
You mean ethereal?
Yeah, ethereal, that's right.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
We are the two Mikes. Got a great text here from two guys up in Blackpool, right? Mike Graham, probably the best song you could play for Mr. Parry is Disco Duck by Rick Dees and his cast of idiots, which got to number 6 in the charts back in that great summer of 1976. He was probably one of the idiots. And then it says, from Daffy and Donald in Blackpool, unfortunately, he says, you played it before we'd finished our text.
Exactly, yeah. So they were thinking what you were thinking. Yeah. You put the music out. The boys were on the ball.
And Stuart in Barnsley says to 81089, what about that great song "Sitting on the Duck of the Bay" by Otis Redding?
Yeah, I like that.
And the classic, which Porky should know, being a John Lennon fan, "The Mallard" of John and Yoko.
The Mallard of John and Yoko.
Very good.
Sitting on the duck of the bay.
That doesn't mean you have to sing.
Great. That's
it is great. Yeah.
What was that to? Who sang that?
Otis Redding.
Otis Redding, yeah. And where was it based? Jamaica?
No, it was meant to be somewhere down in the south, I think. Like,
was it?
Somewhere like Carolina.
Dock of the Bay? Sounds a bit...
Somewhere like North
Carolina
a bit like
or Jamaica.
South Carolina or something like that.
The one I'm thinking about is... I can see clearly now the rain has... No, it wasn't that one.
I can see
Sitting on the Roof. Sitting on the Roof. That was in Jamaica.
Sitting on the Roof?
Sitting on the Roof.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, you know, up on the roof.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right, now then, listen, I wanted to tell you about this gorilla.
Yeah,
Little
I'll hear
Lotus.
about the gorilla, yeah.
Little Lotus in Bangkok, 28 years incarcerated in a concrete hell at the top of a supermarket in Bangkok.
Top of a supermarket?
Yeah.
That's awful, isn't it?
They put it up there.
Even I think that's awful.
I mean, I don't know how they built this supermarket, but they even got elephants and tigers in this supermarket zoo. Yeah, all for the titillation of people who come there to shop.
To attract them to come and
thank
shop
God, the Thailand government have ordered it to be closed down and the animals to be sent to proper animal sanctuaries. So that is...
so has the gorilla got a name?
Yeah, the gorilla is called...
Gus.
No, Little Lotus.
Little Lotus?
Little Lotus, but it's called something else in Indonesian language.
Unusual name for a gorilla, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. But that's not the best animal story we came across this week, right?
Well, hang on a second. You're supposed to care deeply about these things, right? You've just kind of glossed over it. So where's it gone?
As I said, they're now trying to find... Because the government have ordered that the animals must be released now from this concrete hell, then they've got to go and find them.
But is it still in the concrete hell while they're trying to decide where to put it?
Well, yeah, because there's nowhere else to send it.
And how long has it been there?
28 years.
So amazing. So how long do the gorillas live then?
Some of them can live till they're 40.
Really?
But if they're treated in really nice ways and all that kind of stuff. But look, I've got a great story here, which you will say probably mirrors my life because you do these sort of things because you think that these people are odd. But there's a chap here who had a pig, and the pig was his best friend.
Oh yeah.
And this
when you say a chap here, where is he?
Well, this guy's a farmer,
right?
And
in this country.
In this country, in the home counties, right? And what happened was he married and had children, brought them up. He had a small holding, so he was a businessman as well as a sort of small-time farmer.
Small-time farmer, yeah.
And on this small holding, he had this pig,
right?
And
sounds like a nursery rhyme, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah. But the
old MacDonald.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But he says here, old Bob, this is the man who had the pig. He says he was a good pig and I loved him. I'd sit with him every evening and chat to him.
What, so he was like a pet?
Yeah, he was my only companion, my best friend. He knew everything about me, says Bob, age 63.
He knew everything about him?
Yeah, he knew everything about him.
How did he know everything about him?
He thinks they had telepathy between them, the pig and the owner. Yes, no joke at all.
Well, I think it is.
And then one day, comes home from work, ducks are waddling about without fear on this small holding. Yeah. He goes to his pig's pen. Pig's disappeared. And somebody had reported the fact to the RSPCA that the pig had an abscess on its face. It was getting very old. Right. It was getting very old. Was expected to die. Right. Probably.
And was it just like a normal pig? Because you know how like George Clooney and people for a while had these Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs?
No, this is called a Kanukaki pig. Oh, yeah. And apparently it's one of the oldest in the world. It's 20 years of age.
They do say pigs are very intelligent.
Yes, that's right. And it's now gone because the RSPCA came, took it away and put it down. And last week, after months of anguish, Bob was cleared by magistrates in Bournemouth of malicious intent. They refused to ban him from keeping animals and gave him a conditional discharge on the basis he paid the RSPCA's prosecution costs. But he is very, very upset. He eulogises about Mr. Pig.
Well, what's happened to the pig?
It's been put down.
Really?
The RSPCA took it away, decided it was now getting too old and its life was full of pain.
So they took it away without his permission?
Absolutely.
He just came and took it?
Absolutely.
That's a bit shocking, isn't it?
I think it's absolutely disgusting. He was a good pig, but as ugly as sin. You couldn't get any uglier. And he was a grumpy old sod. He was smelly and naughty as hell, always stealing food and smashing down fences. But I really loved him. Their bond, if unusual, appears genuine.
Well, the best deal in the world, though, this guy does sound slightly eccentric, doesn't he?
Well, this guy comes from Corfe Mullen in Dorset, which is part of the Jurassic Coast, right?
Yeah, near Corfe Castle.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So it's very, very countrified, rural, so to speak, yeah. But he says, I used to buy special eye washes and bathe the pig's eyes. I would always steam his vegetables because as he got older, his teeth got wonky and he couldn't chew through hard vegetables, so I steamed them for him.
What happened to his wife?
Their marriage split up and their children...
Presumably on account of the pig.
I don't know. But anyway, he says, we diagnosed an abscess with him and I was bathing it regularly, keep a close eye on him. I knew his days were numbered, but he was still eating and trotting about. His time wasn't up yet. But the RSPCA officials felt otherwise. On that fateful November day, Bob returned home to find a notice pinned to the gate saying something along the lines of, please phone this number, we've got your pig. Almost like he'd been kidnapped.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's not a bad organisation, the RSPCA, so I'm sure they did it for the right reasons.
Well, I think they're out of control. I think the RSPCA are out of control because there's been other complaints about the fact that they get heavy-handed with people and go around stealing their animals when they make a decision that, the animals need looking after and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah,
but they've got the interests of the animal at heart, haven't
they?
Well,
I think sometimes, I don't know. I'm thinking sometimes that the RSPCA now, like a lot of charities, have become rather political.
Yeah.
And what they do is they pursue political policies which they're in favour of through the charity. For instance...
Well, are they one of the ones who are saying that you shouldn't feed ducks bread? Are they one of those?
No, I haven't seen them say that.
Right.
No, I haven't seen them say that. But, for instance, I used to give to a charity for old people. I think it was UK Age or something.
Was it? Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
I've no idea.
Anyway,
all I know about is your the charity, the African
sight savers,
and the horse charity.
The horse charity, still do that.
Your thespian friends are involved.
Now, what I'm saying is, I gave up to the old age persons charity, and I'm not sure if it was the same one. When all of a sudden I found the mission report saying that government policy was killing old people. Old people couldn't afford heating and all this kind of stuff. And I thought it's not their role to get involved in that. Their role is to try and help old people.
I suppose they'd be advocates for old people, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but whatever the political circumstances are, they shouldn't be criticising politicians in power. It's nothing to do with them.
Well, I mean, it's
charities
get
charitable status because they're supposed to do good work, not to fund political campaigns.
It's a bit like Red Nose Day. I mean, I was forced to sit through some of that on Friday night, which I don't like to do very much. And I was doing a little research while the show was on, and the most recent figures I could find was 2013. Do you know what their salary bill was in 2013?
No.
The comic relief people?
No.
For 15 million quid.
The salary bill?
Just for the salaries.
What, for people to put on Red Nose Day?
No, for people who work for the charity.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
which essentially exists once a year for Red Nose Day.
So it costs 15 million quid at the very least.
Well, how much do they raise?
For an annual salary? Well, they raise hundreds of millions. I mean, it's a proportion of that, but it's still an awful lot of money.
A lot of people for 15 million quid.
It's an awful lot of money.
I mean, even if they, they were all getting 50 grand each, that's 10, 20... 15, 20s is 10, 20, that's 300 people alone.
I know.
Being paid 50 grand each.
Amazing.
This guy, by the way, I love this guy, because you know what he used to do? He used to go out and sit with his pig, drink wine, talk to his pig.
He's obviously a bit of an eccentric, isn't he?
His pig would grunt a few things. He said when
Mr. take his pig down the pub?
No. He said, when Mr. Pig got fat, I put him on a diet. I thought, I'm going to come home on one day and you'll be dead from a heart attack, so I'm going to... and then there'll only be me left in the world, and I'm going to make sure you live a bit longer. And he did treat the pig like a friend. He used to sit there and chat to it, and he said, "I got
not
great
really very normal,
vibes out of it." Well, you say it's not normal, but I can see exactly why you would get succor and comfort out of a pig rather than you would out of a human being. Human beings can hurt you. Human beings can be difficult. They can be non-compliant. They can be...
Well, so can pigs, I would imagine.
No, I don't think so. They can be unhelpful, and in fact, they can be more than unhelpful. They can be plotting against you.
That's true.
Or trying to connive and scheme and all that kind of stuff. Like cats.
Yeah.
Very much like cats, Whereas pigs don't. I mean, I think it's quite a good idea, this. The idea that you get, an emotional payback from having a pig.
Yeah.
You're not
thinking of getting a pig,
Oh, definitely not, no. Because
you never get him up the stairs.
No, don't be ridiculous. A, I haven't got any land. B, I wouldn't want a pig because pigs are actually rather smelly creatures.
They're quite clean, actually, pigs.
They are quite clean. They roll around in mud and all that kind of stuff, but unfortunately they do have a certain odour about them, and that's why people say you smell like a pig, you know what I mean?
Or you even look like one.
Or you look like a pig, which I think... People have accused you of having piggy eyes, haven't they?
No.
They do.
Nobody's ever accused me of that.
No, they do.
Piggy eyes?
Yeah, piggy eyes. Yeah, I've heard people
you've heard
say that.
people?
I've heard people
really?
say that. Yeah, I've heard
well,
people
I wish you'd point them out next time. A couple of tweets to read out to you. Scottish Bully says this. When he was school boxing champ, the guy he beat up was 6'2". What age was his schoolmate? 35. Porky being 4'9". What a mismatch.
That's a bit...
And then here's one from Ben who says, Parry has to feed the ducks bread because everything else edible in his fridge comes in a tin.
Yeah.
Other than breaded ham.
Yeah, not true. Not true. Not true.
We've got lots more to do. Winners and losers coming up very shortly. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. There will be a podcast coming out in about 6 hours' time. This is TalkSport. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. That song reminds me that I haven't actually been on a plane for quite a long time.
No? Is that right?
Well, you know how sometimes there's times in your life when you're never off a plane.
Sure, I totally
agree. And when you were a
agree.
reporter and I was a reporter, we were on planes like literally every week.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Especially in America. And even when I was working up in Scotland, I'd always be on a plane down to Canary Wharf or I'd be going over to Ireland or something.
Sure.
But I haven't actually been on a plane now since, I think, the last summer holiday I had.
Yeah,
which was,
I must admit, I don't do much.
It was like August.
There was 1 year here at TalkSport. I went to 12 different countries.
Did you?
Yeah, it was all so busy. England playing abroad and European finals and maybe a World Cup in South Africa or something.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Now, talking about planes, right, this is what drew my attention to this. Now, Etihad Airways is the airline of Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, yeah, the owners of Manchester City.
Are they the owners?
Well, the sponsors of Manchester City. It's called the Etihad Stadium, isn't it?
It's called the Etihad Stadium, of course it is, yeah, Abu Dhabi, right. Now, they in the battle for the high roller end of airline passengers, have gone one beyond first class.
Right.
They now have like a penthouse, a flying penthouse. It's called the Residence.
Right.
I think there's one on every plane, long distance. It's a 3-room retreat, it's described as.
Really?
Separate living room, ensuite shower, double bedroom.
Wow. So it would have to be like a jumbo to have something like that.
Yeah, it'd have to be the front nose of the jumbo, I suppose.
Or the upstairs bit or something.
Yeah, you also get a personal butler.
Really?
To serve all your needs.
You would love all that, wouldn't you?
I would. I'd love it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, this...
You could fly to Abu Dhabi just to try it out.
I would. And if Abu Dhabi offered me a free flight, I'd go. And
of course you'd go.
Then I'd start praising it to everybody on Twitter and over the radio and everything to say it's the most brilliant service.
This is not some kind of shameless attempt to get a free flight, is it?
Maybe it is. But the point is, if I show you this advert, which I saw, full-page advert newspaper, I believe that's Nicole Kidman, isn't it?
It looks a bit like her.
Yeah.
She looks very young in that, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, yeah, so I'd advertise it. But
that is Nicole Kidman.
It is Nicole Kidman.
I think there's quite a bit of photoshopping going on.
Now, have you ever been, because I haven't, on the plane that's bigger than the jumbo?
What, the new one?
Yeah, what's it called?
The 888 or something?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. I would imagine it must be on those, because, even on a jumbo, you'd be hard-pressed to fit in a...
380, it's time told.
380, yeah, the A380.
I don't know what 888 is. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know, somewhere. You'd be hard-pressed
cigarettes or something.
to put a penthouse of 3 rooms into a jumbo.
Right.
Well,
you would. Except, I suppose, with the upstairs bit, you could turn that into one...
I suppose you could, but
you can't put too many of these things on, can they?
Well, I think there's only one in every plane.
Is there?
Yeah. Now, of course, you've never flown first class in a jumbo, have you?
I don't think I have, no.
No. Some
I've flown,
have, of course.
Well, of course you would have, because you're the king of getting the freebies, aren't you?
It's not king of getting the freebies, mate. When I got on the plane in Las Vegas or Los Angeles, the guy said...
One of the two?
Yeah, it was in Los Angeles. The guy said, "It's you, isn't it? It's you, yeah." I said, "Yeah." And it was the time...
Like Kenny Rogers?
No. She knew exactly who I was. The communicator, Mike Parry. I said, "Yes, that's me."
What, were you actually in a fit state to answer? Having been in the club lounge for several hours.
Actually, I'd flown from Las Vegas because we couldn't get a direct flight from Las Vegas back home, so we had to go to LAX. But it was the famous occasion when he gave me a Joan Collins seat.
Oh, yes.
Because she'd pulled out of the flight, so I got a...
Because she heard you were on it. Didn't want to meet you again.
No.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right. I used to get regularly upgraded to business class when I used to fly.
Yes.
I'd buy an economy ticket and get upgraded to business class.
Yeah.
But I've never been upgraded to first class. I've only flown first class in... Well, like Continental, for example, from Glasgow to New York, they only had what they call business first. So it was actually business, really. It didn't really have a first class. It was quite a small plane. And I've been first class internally in Europe and also in America. It's
not worth having, is it?
Well, it's not that much different, I suppose.
No.
You're right. I have never been first class.
The other time, I was romancing a lady at a PR agency.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice lady.
Was she married?
No, she wasn't. Actually.
Really?
No, she was single.
Extraordinary.
And her PR agency suddenly got the contract for Qantas, right? So I flew... Qantas. Yeah, the Australian airline.
Yeah.
So I flew to Sydney and back, first class.
Did you?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Her? Well, this is the great thing about it. We flew out there together, and she was kind of working. You know,
was she based in Australia?
No, she's based in London.
Oh, okay.
But we flew out there together because it was part of the initiation ceremony for them getting the PR contract and all that kind of stuff, you know. And marvellous. And then...
so was that like 24 hours in the air?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, see, I can't imagine how awful that would be.
Yeah, but when you're in first class, you don't care.
I suppose you don't, but it's still a long time to be on a plane.
It is a long time, yeah. But anyway, and we stayed at the Hyatt on the Rocks in Sydney, the top hotel, you know, top place and all that kind of stuff. But then I got a real break because although she was a very nice lady and all that kind of stuff, I was starting to feel a bit stifled about being with her for 7 days because that was the length of the trip.
No.
So, anyway, after 2 days, she came to me tearfully, you know, and said, "Oh, it's terrible news, Mike." So, what is it? She said, "I've been recalled to London. I've got to go back now, you know, as a big account. I've got
you
to..."
don't think she did that deliberately to get away from you?
Well, she might have done, I don't know, but I didn't mind.
I suspect that's probably the case.
So, she said...
so, you'd spent a whole 24 hours on a plane. How long have you been going out with her at this point?
Oh, just a few weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
So, she spent... I mean, that's pretty brave of her to actually sit with you for 24 hours on a plane.
Well, she was besotted with me.
While you got bladdered.
She was besotted with me.
Continually.
Believe me.
I mean, in 24 hours, you get drunk about 4 times.
Yeah, I suppose you could really, yeah. But I mean, you know, I behaved like a gentleman, obviously.
Of course.
And so she said, you know, I've got to... I said, it's terrible. But she said, but don't worry, it's all sorted. You stay.
Right.
I said, well, I should come home with you early. No, you can stay if you want. I said, okay.
And what, you put it all on the tab?
Oh, all on the tab at the Hyatt on the Rocks.
When was this then?
Oh, a good 10 years ago now.
So were you working here then?
No, it must have been before that. Yeah. About 12 years, I think. But anyway, the point of the story involves you as well, because when she left, I thought, right, so I got out the old contacts book, and the first name I found in Australia was Frank Thorne.
Oh, right. Good old Frankie.
He's to explain to our listeners, a former colleague from Fleet Street.
From the Mirror, yeah.
Who married a lady who was a barmaid in a pub who turned out to be Australian and went back and resettled in Australia.
Yeah.
And it was all going swimmingly until Frank and I had a lunch at the Lord Nelson.
This is like the one that ends up with him in the bath, isn't it?
Yeah, but he had to leave Frank in the bath because he was ill. and they came and carted him away like a piece of furniture. Well, only that you knew Frank Thorne as well as I do. And Frank took me around all the haunts. In fact, we went to the hotel and saw the room where Michael Hutchence hanged himself on the back of the door.
That's cheery.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, shouldn't they have got rid of this room?
Did they take you to any other rooms where people had killed themselves? That's a fantastic... I thought he was in the Four Seasons, wasn't he?
Well, he wasn't even in Sydney. He was
the Ritz. No, it was the Ritz, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it Mandalay Bay or somewhere like that or something?
Not sure.
No, Mandalay Bay is in
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, that's right.
Yeah, a lot of Las Vegas. You want a freebie to Las Vegas as well while you're at it.
Las Vegas, that's good. But anyway, the point is, I'd love to try this out, wouldn't you? The Flying Penthouse.
Well, I think you should use...
Absolutely fantastic.
All your wiles to get in touch with the Etihad people.
Yeah, and
we might have to go out and check out the fitness of Abu Dhabi to host the World Cup.
Well, exactly.
And I know that it's in Doha before people start complaining.
Yes,
but you know
which is in Qatar.
Yeah, they might have to use other sort
the facilities
neighbouring stadiums.
This is United Arab Emirates, isn't it? They're all very closely packed together. Yeah. So no, I totally agree with you.
I think you should definitely put that on as a project.
Yeah, I do. So it's a penthouse.
Maybe we should say we could go out there and do a live show.
Yeah, do a live show. So here you go. So the Residence, that's what it's called.
How much
is
it, by the way? Does it say how much it is?
I imagine it's very expensive, but it's called the Residence. 3-room retreat. Separate living room, ensuite shower, double bedroom, personal butler.
Yeah.
And I would imagine you probably get your own little, above first class facility in the airport before you get on the plane.
I'm sure you would.
Sure, yeah. I'm sure I'd be smashed before.
They might even drive you out to the plane in a limo.
I'm sure they would. I should be.
Mind you, I mean, the thing is,
before we even got aboard.
With the greatest respect, if I was going to go in a 3-room kind of penthouse type arrangement on a plane with a bed in it, I wouldn't really want to go with you.
No, I wouldn't want to go with you either. In fact, you wouldn't get the bed, mate, because I'd have fixed the deal. And you could sit in one of the seats tipped backwards or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be one of the separate rooms.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a great idea, though.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe they should bring something like that in for the trains in this country. Because remember when they used to have proper first class kind of dining cars?
Absolutely.
And they used to have proper sleeping arrangements.
Absolutely,
as well.
yeah.
I always remember the first time I went on a sleeper from London to Edinburgh, how disappointed I was that it was just a pair of bunk beds. And the worst thing about it was I woke up when I went to sleep because I was quite tired. I think before the train left. I was in this place on my own.
Right.
And when I when I woke up in the morning, there was a guy standing next to me cleaning his teeth.
Right.
And I thought that was the worst thing ever to wake up to.
I think it is. Was there no curtain across?
No, there was, but I pulled the curtain back. There was a guy there who'd obviously come in somewhere.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I thought, I'm not having any of this. I'm going to go first class, right?
Yes.
So I bought a first class ticket.
Yes.
And the guy showed me, and so actually they came and carried the bag and showed me to the same basic setup with double bunks, and I went, "I'm sorry, I've got a first class ticket." He said, "Yeah, this is first class." I'm like, "This is second class."
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, well, the only thing is we guarantee that you have it to yourself." So that was it. Because I had visions of having like a proper bed.
But did you get it to yourself then?
I got it to myself, yeah, but it wasn't any more luxurious.
No, still a bunk bed.
It was still a bunk bed.
Yeah, hopeless.
It was terrible.
Talking about on trains, by the way, something else.
Time, by the way.
No, I was going to mention this to you. Station announcement says to people on the train, it's so packed. This is in England.
Yeah.
If you're fat, don't sit down.
What?
You take up too much room on the seats around the edge of the carriage.
They actually announced that.
Yeah, the worker said, if you're fat, it's not going to work. Please don't sit down. One commuter said, it's disgusting. I'd get fired if I said that to anybody at work.
Yeah.
South West Trains apologised for the incident at Basingstoke in Hampshire.
So this was just some rogue announcer.
Yeah. Station announcer shocked train passengers by saying
That's
fat
awful,
people should not sit down.
No, the kind of thing you would say.
No. I've got every sympathy with this station announcer. Fat people should be ostracised in society. I'm a specialist in obesity,
I know you
and
are.
I think that it's got to be tough love to tell fat people to get slim again.
Well, you might be one of the people that gets ostracised.
No, you've got to... Well, I don't mind. It's a lifestyle choice for me to be obese, right? No, it is. And if other people want to be obese, they will get the bricks and the outrageous stones and arrows of
outrageous fortune. I think
of outrageous fortune should hit them.
Las Vegas reference coming later. We'll talk about how Easter's been cancelled by the train companies as well very shortly. But next up, it's time for winners and losers. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
This is the Two Mics on Talk Sport, and it is our weekly look through some of the big wins and the big losses at the weekend. And we've got Mr. Toby Gillies here up against Mr. Mike Parry, and of course the scores pretty much speak for themselves. Mr. Mike Parry, I think, has got 8. Have you not now?
Yes, something like that.
Toby's
8 or 9.
Yet to win one yet, but he valiantly tries to get one over on you once every week.
Yes.
I shan't give up.
Mr. Gillies, yes, I'm very pleased. It shows great perseverance. Would you like to give us your 3 losers of the weekend, please?
I can do that, yes. My first loser of the weekend is Dick Advocaat.
Why?
Now, Dick Advocaat is, as TalkSport understands, will replace Gus Poyet as the manager of Sunderland.
Maybe.
But this is a poisoned club that he's joining. There's no doubt.
Poisoned chalice.
No chance of success. Even if he keeps them up, his reputation won't be enhanced because there are 3 terrible teams below Sunderland at the moment. Listen to this list of names. Steve Bruce, Eric Black, Martin O'Neill, Paolo Di Canio, Kevin Ball, Gus Poyet. 3.5 years is all it's taken for Sunderland to get through that list of names. Dick Advocaat will simply not succeed.
I think his name's Advocaat. Night and mornings, I drink fornings, Advocaat.
Yeah.
See?
There was an R on the end of that.
No, it's AT at the end, but in the Dutch
It's double
vernacular.
AT, isn't it?
It doesn't
In the
matter.
Dutch
I mean,
vernacular,
you don't know
Advocaat.
how to pronounce Louis van Gaal, so...
Van Gaal?
Yeah,
He actually turned out to be more correct than almost everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, it's Van Gaal, and
Well, we
I've
know
been
how
saying
your
that from the
pronunciation
start.
isn't your strong point.
Well, in the
Diego
past.
Costa.
My next loser of the weekend, Berlin's football fans.
Really?
I'm sure you've heard about this big story. This was the big derby in Berlin, FC Union against Dynamo Berlin.
Oh, we've
I
all
thought
over that.
Hertha Berlin was the big team in Berlin.
Yes, but there are 2 teams outside of the
no,
top
they're not in the
flight, so
Bundesliga.
they're not in the
Oh, right.
Bundesliga.
Okay. Good, he's dug deep for this one.
But they
hasn't he?
do. But
So
they
we're doing
do.
minnows again, yeah.
But they do provide huge drama when they play each other. And
Oh, yeah, huge drama, yeah. World headlines across all the back pages.
Well, this has made made
from
headlines.
Los Angeles to Sydney.
No, you mustn't interrupt him too much.
Interrupting,
because
exactly.
you might get half a point taken off you.
Okay, go on.
There was a huge riot when these two teams played at the weekend. 300 Dinamo fans managed to get in with the home fans in one of the stands. 175 arrests were made when 112 police officers were injured in this riot.
How many dead?
It's an absolute disgrace.
How many dead?
What, you want death?
No, a riot definition of riot is how many dead.
There's not always dead people in riots.
How many dead?
None.
What kind of a riot's
It's
that?
still a disgrace.
I've seen better riots in kindergarten.
He's literally gone back to news editing mode because you have to say that to the foreign editor. How many dead? How many dead? And find out whether it's a big story.
How many interruptions is the question I'm asking.
That's a good question.
And everybody's been moaning in the UK about pitch invasions being terrible, but this is clearly far worse, and there needs to be some big consequences for the fans of the.
I'll have to hurry you because you're taking way too much time.
Well, I was being quick except for these interruptions.
Do you remember last week you got penalised for time wasting?
I'm aware, but I'm being interrupted.
Well, you don't leave him any time to do his then.
Hull fans, they're my final ones.
All right.
They thought they'd seen off the threat of being called Hull Tigers.
Oh, yeah.
The club then appealed, claimed the process was flawed.
Yeah.
An independent panel has now ruled the decision to block the name change, it can't stand.
Really?
They're allowed to try again.
Yeah.
And the original ruling, the reason it's not allowed to stand was because it placed too much weight on supporter objections. So the Hull fans now, even their objections won't be listened to.
Yeah, well, that's what I always predicted. I've always said that the Alam family should be able to do what they want since they own the club. That's my favourite one so far. Mr. Parry, what are your three losers?
Right, three losers here. First of all, Bournemouth's Mark Ritchie, OK?
Uh-huh.
His name might be Mick Ritchie, I'm not sure.
It's Matt Ritchie.
Is it
Neither
Matt
of the
Ritchie?
two
Right,
come up with.
OK, Matt Ritchie,
Well,
thank
you can't win that if you haven't got his name right.
Of course I can. Bournemouth's Matt Ritchie. His name's Ritchie. That's the only name I saw on the programme,
Just had his first call up to Scotland.
This is why he's a loser. You've got to stick it out, boy, and wait till England call you. He's never been to Scotland. This guy has never been to Scotland. He says, I know I've got some aunties and uncles up there somewhere, right?
Got parents or something?
No. He's never been to Scotland. How can you go and play for a country you've never even visited? That is Losersville stamped all over his forehead, OK? The second loser is the man who leaked the Rooney tape. He's going to be a pariah in world football. He stood in Wayne Rooney's kitchen. Not many people have the privilege to do that. Filmed this punch-up and then released it into the public domain. And the third one, and they are losers, not Sunderland Football Club, Sunderland fans. What a bunch of hopeless losers who go around chucking their season tickets at the dugout, throwing their scarves around like that. If Everton had lost to Newcastle at home last Saturday, you would not have seen Everton fans who would have been in the same predicament behaving like morons who go around denigrating their club. But for some unknown reason, the disease seems to affect Sunderland fans. They should be ashamed of themselves.
They've been putting up with it for a long time, though, haven't they?
They are losers. They are losers.
Yeah, OK. Well, I tell you what, you've both got Sunderland in common, but I have to say, I'm kind of edging towards maybe fans of maybe I'll give you 1 point each for that, actually, because Hull fans I quite like as well. Now, we've got to get very, very quickly through the winners, OK? So let's have Mr. Parry. 1-1 at the moment. Can you edge it in the winners category?
Can.
What have you got?
I'm not going to go for the obvious ones. Lewis Hamilton, too obvious.
OK.
Tim Sherwood, too obvious, OK? This jerk on my right, he might.
No, you've been told not to abuse him.
Sorry about that.
His other employers don't appreciate it.
I withdraw that statement. That was wrong. It's like a politician.
I might have to give you... I won't... All right, since you've withdrawn it, that's all right.
Right, the three winners, number one, Gareth Bale, because he came back with 2 goals for Real Madrid and turned the tide that, was against him. No, it's not, because he needed that badly with 2 goals. The second is Piers Morgan, because my inside information tells me Piers is taking over from Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear, OK?
Really?
That's what I understand from the inside world of showbiz.
From him that's telling you that?
No, I haven't spoken to him,
Right.
And the third one has to be Poldark, Aidan Turner, the actor. I mean, this man has become an international world heartthrob since he took his kegs off and went bathing in the sea in Cornwall whilst his housemaid was watching.
Blimey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shocking.
And I'm telling you, that man has overtaken any sex symbol in the world. He's overtaken Beckham. He's overtaken, Brad Pitt. He's overtaken... whoever. Johnny Depp.
That's an underwear model.
Johnny Depp, the underwear model, David Gandy. He's overtaken them all, and he's now number one man. He's the man all men would want to be.
Is that who you want to be?
Yeah. You're not, yeah.
You just told me you're happy being ugly.
No. That's for one particular purpose. But for, the rest of the attractions in life that you can have, I'd rather be like Poldark.
Okay.
Galloping along on a horse along the Cornish
Naked.
cliffs.
God, the mind boggles, doesn't it?
I feel a bit sick.
I know. Well, anyway, let's hear your 3 winners.
Okay, Rugby Union Six Nations, the tournament itself. For anyone esurient for sporting drama at the moment...
Hey?
What?
What did you say there?
For anyone esurient for sporting drama.
Esurient? That's the second time in a week you've come up with a word.
You don't know what the word esurient
No, I just haven't heard it in a very, very long time.
I know what it means.
You happy with it? Can I continue?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
People...
Are you just trying to throw these big words in to confuse Mr. Parry?
No, to try and impress you, the judge.
I'm not trying to impress anyone. This is my vocabulary. They're bored of the Barclays Premier League's predictability at the moment, and there could be no doubt. Just general sporting fans.
What's predictable about Chelsea 1, Southampton 1, Burnley beating Manchester City?
Look at the table, the tournament itself.
No.
Chelsea are top. Man City aren't going to win it. We know who's going to win it. We pretty much know who the top 4 is going to be.
Well,
we know who's going down.
Italy always lose in the Six Nations.
The fact is that there are 4 teams that can still win the Six Nations at the moment.
The Six Nations table
with
hardly ever
one
changes.
Match for each still to go.
Well, that's because there's only 6 teams in it.
Can you get on with it, please?
It's an astonishing tournament.
If they had 20 teams in that table,
you don't
the
like
top
it.
4
I'll
would be the
move on
same.
with it.
I will move on.
All right.
David Moyes is my next winner.
Moyes?
Believe it or not, yesterday was 13 years to the day after his famous first match as Everton boss, the one against Fulham that they won 2-1. And also yesterday, David Moyes finally got a first away win in Spain.
All right.
Real Sociedad beating Getafe 1-0. They're now into the top half of the table, and David Moyes' reputation continues to reinvigorate
More than can be
itself.
said for Everton.
More than can be said for Everton.
Yeah.
More than can be said for Louis van
soon.
Gaal, his replacement at Manchester United as well.
He might go to Sunderland, David
My
Moyes.
final one, and I will be brief, Ram Baran. Now, you may not have heard of him.
No.
He was marrying his beautiful bride, Lovely Singh, in India over the weekend, but she walked out during the ceremony. Why, you may ask?
Yeah.
She asked him to add 15 and 6 together, and he said 17. So she left, citing illiteracy as a reason not to marry him.
Even though it's actually numeracy that's the problem.
Exactly. I think it took great mental strength to walk out of her arranged marriage, given, everybody was already there. So she could have been a winner herself, but I'm going for Ram.
But why is he a winner?
I think because it took great mental strength to go against the family when there was an arranged marriage and all that sort of thing. But I didn't pick her as a winner. I chose Ram because I think that it's a double loss for him. Public humiliation twice, and he's definitely the loser of the weekend.
Public humiliation is, of course, the order of the day on this show. But you've done very well in the loser category. The winners there are completely off the scale. Mad. I think you've lost the plot with the winners. Mad. I'm going to have to go with, not just because it's Aidan Turner and it involves somebody who has actually won something. I quite like Gareth Bale and Piers Morgan, so I'm afraid it's Mr. Parry once again who has won. So that gives him 9,
Another
I think,
victory.
to your 0. And try not to gloat too much because I might have to take a point away from you. Toby, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you next week.
I'll try again next week.
Yeah. Well done, Toby. Good effort.
Trevor.
Trevor. Yeah. I was going to say Troby then.
Troby.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. Of course, there will be a podcast coming out around about 6 hours or so from now, maybe even less. A couple of tweets to read out to you.
Yes.
Here's one from Elf, who says...
Elf or Alf?
Elf.
Elf.
Didn't Led Zeppelin's Starship used to have a grand piano and an open fireplace in it? Well, funnily enough, our old mate Mickey Brennan took that picture. Do you remember I showed it to you? Of Led Zeppelin in their plane when they had their first plane flying around the States. And it did have a fireplace in it.
And you know they carried the money around in a big, ark-type coffin thing.
Yeah.
Somebody nicked it. They demanded on being paid in cash at every venue, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then somebody nicked off with all the money.
And that was why their managers used to threaten people with guns and stuff.
That's
and
right.
Go, pay up or else, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's one from William. It says, if Porky wants to fly on an Etihad flight with a porter, etc., he'll have to change his allegiance from Everton to Manchester City. And Sean says, Porky's having a pop at Bournemouth again. It's Matt Ritchie, you bumbling fool.
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah.
I said.
Well, you said it was something else first.
It was Ritchie, didn't I?
And then Matt says, all I can think of when I think of Porky feeding the ducks is the dead duck scene from the film About a Boy.
About a Boy, I've never seen that.
Which is a Hugh Grant film. It's
a Hugh Grant film.
I don't remember the dead duck scene, though.
But Hugh Grant is more of a politician these days than an actor, is he not?
Jamie says this, Porky winning with Porky winning all these winners and losers, it proves that Mike Graham is a fair judge and can't fix the quiz. Very sensible.
Yeah, well, you can't fix the quiz because there's two sides to that quiz. The one you do fix, of course, we know, is the quiz every Thursday stroke Friday.
About.
No, it's not. No. He's talking about winners and losers.
No.
Winners and losers has two people competing. The quiz is just you against me.
Well, it's not me against you. It's you answering questions which are either right or wrong. And invariably, they are wrong. Now, listen, we're going to talk some more about trains over the Easter holidays.
Oh, it's
terrible. Which are bound to affect people going to football matches as well.
Yeah.
But what about, have you seen this story about Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it.
Where he slagged off France. And it's caused such a stir, apparently.
Yeah.
The Le Pen crowd are now saying he should be kicked out of the country.
Yeah, well, the Pen crowd are a bit
on the right
severe
side of,
anyway,
madness,
aren't they? A bit extreme. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he storms off the pitch, doesn't he? He goes through what looked to me like the, what's that zone they call?
The mix zone.
The mix zone.
Yeah,
and,
he's got his shirt off.
Yeah, got his shirt off and all his tattoos all over his body, and he's shouting and screaming in a language I didn't understand, so I suppose it was Swedish, was it, which is his native language, and starts slagging off.
He speaks about 6 languages.
So well, I'm not surprised. Has he won 10 titles in 12 years at some of Europe's most stellar clubs?
For Barcelona, hasn't he? He's played for Milan. He's played for Paris Saint-Germain, who he plays for now. I presume he played in Sweden as well. I'm not sure which other. I mean, this is Premier League's about the only place he hasn't played. It'd be great if he came to the Premier League, wouldn't it? Here's what he said. He called France a crap country, for want of a better word. He walked off the field. He was filmed calling an assistant referee an effing idiot, for want of a better way of describing that. And he basically says, in 15 years, I've never seen a good referee in this useless country. It doesn't deserve PSG. I mean, even
you're talking about France?
Yeah, France.
That's very harsh,
and
isn't it?
even the local French sports minister, Patrick Canner, has called on him to apologise, saying that disappointment did not justify his offensive comments.
Yes. Well, look, he's a brilliant footballer.
He's a maverick, isn't he?
He can do what he wants. Why did he end up at PSG? That's what worries me. Players who end up at PSG are either in it for the money, which you can't blame him for doing. Any man can do that.
Well, on the other hand, they are kind of forging their way through the Champions League. They just knocked Chelsea out of the Champions League.
They certainly have, and we shouldn't forget that. You're totally right there. But nobody thought that would happen at the start of the season. PSG was still never going to break into the big league this season.
No,
until,
and I think they're not even top of La Liga at the
moment.
They're not.
No,
La Liga.
They're quite well down, aren't they? So one's got to ask. But I like a man who expresses his own opinions. And if he thinks he's being badly done to, he's every right to defend himself, every right to make what will be interesting now will be to see where it goes now.
Yeah.
Will he apologise tomorrow and say, look, I'm sorry, it was the heat of the moment and all that?
I can bring you an update on that, because by his Instagram account, he says, regarding my comments after tonight's game, they were not against France or the French people. I spoke about football. I lost the game. I accept that. But I can't accept when the referee doesn't follow the rules. It's not the first time, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's kind of trying to weasel out of it.
He's trying to say, I'm not against France, I'm against the institution of football in this country.
But he did call it a crap country.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit tough. The other thing that worries me about the highest level of sport, because, of course, he's one of the world's great footballers.
Yeah.
In Formula One, you know what they're trying to do now?
What?
This Christian Horner guy who runs Red Bull, he's now demanding that because Lewis Hamilton's car is so good, his Mercedes, and so fast, we've got to slow it down. Slow it down and make the races more competitive.
Really?
I don't remember Christian Horner saying that when he was in charge of Red Bull and Vettel won 4 consecutive titles.
No, I don't think he did say that then.
Sorry?
I don't think he did say
that.
No,
of course he didn't say that then. And by the way, Vettel was standing next to Lewis Hamilton on the podium because now he races for Ferrari and came third, I think, didn't he?
Well, I mean, the problem for motor racing and for Formula One in particular is the cars are so important, aren't they? And if your car isn't as good as the other guy's car, then you've got no chance of winning.
You can't then go moan and say, well, we better slow our opponent's car down.
They should make a better car.
Make a better car or find a better driver, because clearly they haven't got the drivers who are pushing the cars to the limit and all that kind of stuff. I could have been a great racing driver. I know for a fact I could have been.
How? What gives you that idea?
I've always thought that I've got a great sort of eye to foot coordination sort of brain.
Yeah.
Very
I don't think they use their feet, do they?
Very responsive on the. Well, they have to press a pedal for the car to go forward.
I think the accelerator's on a steering wheel, isn't it?
No.
I think it is.
No, it can't be.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure, yeah. No, what's on the steering wheel is the change of gear.
The gear change.
The gear change and those things like putting on the afterburner and all that kind of stuff.
And the radio as well.
The radio and all that kind of stuff. No, of course they still use an accelerator on your... Don't be ridiculous. And they still use an accelerator with their foot. Of course they do. I think the car goes forward and backwards and stops and brakes.
Do you ever drive, when you're not being a Spitfire pilot, do you ever drive down the M3... thinking you're a Formula 1 driver.
I have sometimes sort of commentated on myself, Parry now taking it on the outside as I go around a bend or something like that, I have, and I usually do it in the Murray, what's his name, Murray Walker type voice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, my favourite one is I'm driving along, and unless I'm absolutely mistaken, Parry's going to take the checkers flag, and yes, I'm absolutely mistaken. He hasn't taken the checkered flag. Yeah, I like repeating that one quite often.
That is bizarre, isn't it? I can just see you doing all that. Now, we haven't got a lot of time, but I want to talk to you briefly about Easter, because it's not that far away. It's only a couple of weeks away. 4 days of chaos is being predicted on the railways. Right?
I can't believe it.
Have a listen to this.
I can't believe it.
The South Eastern Network, which is the one that I would have used if I was still using the train, no services to or from Cannon Street, London Bridge, Charing Cross or Waterloo East. No services between Swanley and Faversham.
Over what period of time is this?
Over the 4 days of Easter.
Joking.
So from presumably...
They're shutting down the rail network.
From Good Friday to Easter Saturday, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday. Greater Anglia, no trains from London, Liverpool Street to Ipswich and Norwich. So you're quite right, nobody's going to be going to Norwich. Great Western, closed between Hayes in London and Didcot in Oxfordshire. And the West Coast Main Line, 4 day shutdown between London Euston and Milton Keynes.
This has got to be the worst railway network in the world, in the civilised world.
And it's one of the most expensive as well.
Well, what about that? Did I tell you about going to Cheltenham last Friday?
Yes.
Now, you and I went to Cheltenham.
What was it, 270 quid or something they wanted?
You and I went to Cheltenham and we decided we'd go first class because it can be a bit of a cattle truck operation. £120 return first class. Not bad. Last week, when I was going to go up to Cheltenham, if I could have made it.
For the Gold Cup,
For the Gold Cup and all that, but unfortunately I couldn't.
What an amazing race that! What an amazing week, by the way, that all turned out to be.
It was fantastic. I got second and third and fourth.
Oh, okay.
They paid out on the first four.
Okay.
And I put £100 down, £10 each way on 5 horses. Yeah. I got £95 back.
So you lost £5.
I lost £5 because Ruby didn't get up on the line. Result happiness, only £5 loss. But what I was going to say was, had I gone up there, the fare that you and I paid, £120 last autumn, on Gold Cup Day, goes up to £270.
Incredible.
Unbelievable. What a rip-off.
I know.
I mean, that is just... robbery.
Yesterday, my daughter and her boyfriend came down for Sunday lunch, basically, and I had to go and pick them up from Tunbridge Wells because the train stops at Tunbridge Wells.
Unbelievable.
I got to Tunbridge Wells to pick her up, and they closed off the whole of the station, so you couldn't get into the station.
Unbelievable.
And there's this woman standing there, and I said, "Excuse me, I've come to pick my daughter up from the train." She's like, "Well, there's no trains coming here for the next hour." And I said, No, she's on a train from London Bridge that gets in 5 minutes.
Right.
She went, "No, do you not know about the engineering works?" I'm like, "No, she's just texted me from the train to say she's 5 minutes away."
Right.
And this woman went, "Oh, really? Oh, well, you better come in then." So she opened the gate and let me into the car park.
Well, this woman worked at the station.
Yeah, she was guarding.
And had no idea there was a train due.
Yeah, she had no idea there was a train due. She said there wasn't another train coming for an hour. So if I'd not known, I might have driven off.
Exactly. You know, what kind of organisation is this?
And also the place was full of buses because they were taking people on buses in and out of the station. Absolute nightmare.
My nephew tried to get to me down in Surrey. Yeah. He got as far as Clapham Junction to be told there aren't any trains there. You'll have to go to Wimbledon. I mean, it was crazy.
And what about poor people who've got, they might be working over Easter, they've got season tickets, they're now supposedly going to make it more easy for you to get your refunds and all that, but it's a shambles. It's a disgrace.
Fat people being told don't sit down on trains, we've already told the audience about that. So I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Do agree with that. You should be ostracised if you're obese and fat.
It's all going horribly wrong, is all I know.
Well, you say that, but I mean, shambolic. That's all I can say. Shambolic.
Exactly right. Now, lots more to come, of course. Tomorrow, it will be Ask Porky. So if you want to get your questions in now, you can tweet them at the two Mike, at Mike
I don't
Perrier,
think it is tomorrow, is it? It's not Ask Porky tomorrow.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it? What is it? Is it?
Ask Porky tomorrow.
Is it
and then Wednesday,
Porky?
it's Porky Vision.
Ah, right, okay.
And then Thursday, it's the quiz on the movies.
Absolutely, yes.
So we've got everything sorted out.
Yes, that's fine.
And here's one from Jamie again, who says he is clarifying. He says he is talking about the Thursday quiz, Porky. He says, but you are still a legend. So he's saying,
thank you very much.
It's very clear that I'm a very fair judge, and that there's no way that I could be gerrymandering.
Well, you're the only one who thinks you are.
Yeah, no, he does as well. That's
I think you're a goddamn, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Itinerant.
Itinerant. Thank you very much indeed. I'll take that as a compliment coming from you. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes.
Look at the light. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the two Mikes. With my mum, I have this, what I call the washing machine effect. I've got the nodding.
Yeah.
So when Mum's speaking to me and I'm saying yes, 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 yes. And
so you're not actually listening to it.
And then I'm watching the football and I'm shaking my head because I'm thinking, that wasn't very good, was it? So instead of just nodding and shaking, I just now circulate my head like this.
That's probably quite a good exercise for your neck, actually.
It is good exercise for your neck, and everybody thinks that you're paying attention, you know what I mean? In fact, you're not paying attention at all.
Right.
In the morning, I drink warnings, Advocaat.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.